Welcome to English Through History. In this section, we will examine the life and achievements of Lee Sun-shin, a Korean naval commander who posthumously achieved the status of national hero during the Japanese War with Korea towards the end of the 16th century and during the Joseon dynasty. Widely regarded as one of the greatest naval tacticians of all time, he was respected by both his own soldiers and his enemies of the time. Remarkably, he never lost a battle, and despite the internal politics of Joseon dynasty leadership and enemies within, he went on to become an example of how to live a life of service. We look at some of the famous battles he took part in, the tactics and strategies he used, and what his legacy is in modern Korean history. If you want to know more about the Joseon dynasty, please check out one of our earlier episodes. Lee Sun-shin, also known as Admiral Yi, was born on April 28th, 1545 in present-day Seoul, South Korea. Not much is known about his childhood, but it is believed that he grew up in a scholarly family and received a good education. It is said that Yi was a brilliant student and he excelled in the study of Confucian classics, literature, and military strategy. He joined the military as a soldier and was sent to fight against the Jurchens in the north of the country, where he showed excellent leadership and a grasp of military tactics. Lee Sun-shin's naval career began when he was appointed as a naval commander. Over the next few years, he proved to be an excellent leader and strategist, and he quickly rose through the ranks. When the Japanese invaded in 1592, he proved his worth in developing new tactics and embracing cutting-edge technology for his ships. Lee's success in battle was due in part to his use of turtle ships. The turtle ships were heavily armored vessels that were designed to withstand enemy attacks. He had ordered the construction of these ships several years earlier, recognizing that Korea's navy was ill-equipped to face the powerful Japanese fleet. The turtle ships were an innovation in naval technology, and they played a key role in the Korean Navy's victory over the Japanese. The ships themselves were designed to ram the Japanese ships and counter the preferred Japanese tactic of boarding a ship and engaging in hand-to-hand combat. The ships had protective planking over the heads of soldiers and iron spikes to repel boarders. The ships would ram the Japanese ships and fire their cannon at point-blank range, therefore sinking or crippling the enemy ships. He had studied the Japanese tactics and realized that they really used gunpowder. Therefore, he could just prepare defenses against arrow fire. There are some conflicting references to the design of the turtle ships, but for this particular period of time and this war, barely any iron was used in the design. This enabled them to be both fast and nimble and able to turn very easily. Even the nails themselves were made of wood, which expanded in the water and avoided the problem of rust. He used the turtle ships to great effect against often superior odds. The turtle ships were not his only tactic. He was particularly skilled at using the geography of the Korean peninsula to his advantage, often luring the Japanese Navy into narrow straits where their larger ships could not maneuver effectively. Using the terrain and knowledge of the waterways around the peninsula, he ruthlessly neutralized the Japanese Navy. His most famous battle was the Battle of MYEONGNYANG, a naval battle that took place on October 26, 1597. The Korean Navy, led by Admiral Yi, was vastly outnumbered by the Japanese fleet, but they were able to secure a decisive victory. At the time of the battle, the Japanese had been successfully invading and occupying Korea for several years. The Korean Navy had suffered significant losses in previous battles, and the Japanese were confident that they would be able to defeat them once and for all. Lee Sun-shin devised a clever strategy to defeat the Japanese. He positioned his fleet in a narrow strait between the islands of Jindo and MYEONGNYANG, where the Japanese would have limited room to maneuver. During the battle, the Japanese fleet of over 300 ships attacked the Korean fleet of only 12 to 13 ships. However, the Korean ships were equipped with powerful cannons, and Yi's strategy allowed them to attack the Japanese ships one by one, taking them out with precision and speed. Despite being heavily outnumbered, the Korean Navy was able to sink 31 Japanese ships and severely damage another 30, while only suffering minimal losses themselves. This victory was a turning point in the war, and it gave the Koreans a much-needed morale boost. The Battle of MYEONGNYANG is considered to be one of the greatest naval victories in history, and it cemented Yi Sun-shin's reputation as a brilliant strategist and a national hero in Korea. However, Yi's success also made him enemies within the Korean court, as some officials felt that he was becoming too powerful and too independent of them. Prior to the Battle of MYEONGNYANG, he was accused of refusing orders from the court to attack a position he knew to be risky, and he was subsequently arrested and tortured. However, due to his previous service record, he was eventually released, although he was demoted. Unfortunately, without his leadership, the Korean Navy was decimated in battle after battle, and eventually he was reinstated to his former position. The exact circumstances of Yi's death are unclear, but it is believed that he was struck by a bullet and he died on the deck of his ship. Despite his death, the Korean Navy was able to secure a victory in the battle, which proved to be the last major naval engagement of the war. It is said that such was his presence on the battlefield that someone else wore his armor, and they told no one of his death until the battle was over, for fear that the soldiers would be too demoralized to fight on. Yi Sun-shin is remembered as a national hero in Korea through his unwavering patriotism, leadership, and strategic brilliance in defending his country. His legacy continues to inspire and motivate people in Korea and around the world. It was even said that he was to be used as a source of inspiration during the Japanese annexation of the peninsula in the 20th century. Let's look at some of the key elements to his legacy. The first element to his legacy is the military leadership and the naval innovation. So Yi Sun-shin is widely regarded as one of the greatest military commanders in Korean history. He was able to turn the tide of the war against the Japanese through his strategic genius and his ability to inspire and to lead his troops. Yi Sun-shin was an innovator in naval warfare, introducing new tactics and technologies that helped give the Korean Navy an edge over the Japanese. As mentioned earlier, he is credited with redeveloping and redesigning the turtle ship, which was basically a heavily armored vessel that was virtually impenetrable. The last element of his legacy is his patriotism and his cultural legacy. So Yi Sun-shin's unwavering devotion to his country and his people has made him a symbol of Korean nationalism. His willingness to sacrifice his own life for the sake of his country has made him an enduring inspiration to the Korean people. Yi Sun-shin's legacy extends beyond his military accomplishments. He is also remembered for his contributions to Korean culture, his great belief in Confucianism, and his contributions to culture in the form of literature. He actually wrote several books on military strategy that are still studied today.